Okay, so welcome everyone. Today's topic is using channeling for healing, and our presenter today is Lorraine Sinclair. Now, Lorraine, like a few of us, was born in England and has lived in Aotearoa, New Zealand, for nearly 20 years. This time has been a period of extreme growth and discovery, within which she has fully embraced her Nordic shamanism whakapapa. Lorraine facilitates others' healing through an eclectic mix of lifetimes of wisdom, coaching, intuition, and channeling. She is here this evening to share some of her experience on tips on how to be within this privileged space and keep yourself and others safe while you do so. Thank you, Lorraine. I'll pass it over to you. I'll mute everybody, and if you would just unmute yourself, Lorraine.
Cool. Kia ora koutou. Thanks, Kim, for the invite and the introduction as well. It's nice to see a couple of familiar faces here, Rob and Mandy. Notice you guys here. It's really lovely to see you, and lovely to meet everybody else as well. So yes, as Kim said, tonight we're going to have a little chat with you just about some of the things I do and the experience that I had with channeling, and cover kind of like quite a few aspects of that and what that looks like, and the way that I work. Obviously everybody works a little bit differently, but as we go through, please feel free to ask any questions. I'm happy with that. As we go along, you don't have to wait to the end or anything. Sometimes it's better at the time, so all good. And just to kick off, and just because this is like a healing space as it is, I'd just like to do just a really quick just settle into the space, if that's all right with everybody. So if you want to just kind of take a breath and close your eyes if you wish to, and I would just like you to take yourselves to your place of calm. So for a lot of people that might be within nature, or some people, I was thinking a little earlier today, like in the middle of the library, if you've ever seen one of those pictures of like the Trinity Library, beautiful with all the books, like a very calming space. So whatever your calming space looks like for you, and just settle yourselves in that space for a moment, sitting or lying or whatever works. And just taking 3 really, really deep breaths. So just all the way in. And just hold for the count of 3, and then all the way out. And if you just do the same again 2 more times, just in your own time. Awesome, thank you. So now we've just settled into that space, hopefully left some of the day's things to the side as well. Right, so I'll just jump into what I was going to talk about. I think working with energy and obviously channeling is definitely a privilege. That's the way I see it. And in the work I do, one of the fundamental things is always about respecting the energy. So I teach as well as facilitate healing for others. You'll note that I use the word, and I class myself as a wellness facilitator rather than a healer. To me, the difference in that is I believe we do our own healing. And others can help us along that journey, but we actually heal ourselves. So I don't call myself a healer for those reasons. I think there's quite a distinction in there. One of the key things I'd like to talk about is just keeping yourself and others safe in the environment that we work in, and preparing that space as well. So this is one of the first things I do teach at the beginning of all courses. I'm a Reiki Master Teacher as well, and some of the healing modalities that I've taught in this is always one of the first things that we cover is keeping ourselves and others safe, and that can look quite different. It's quite a range of things. One of the key things is always making sure that we leave people in a safe space at the end of the sessions, and ensuring that by that means, you know, they're capable of, whilst the session can be very profound, it can be very intense at times, it could be calm, it could be a million and one different things. We never really know when we're going in the way that it's going to come out, or the way it's going to play out. For me, every single session, every single channeling is different, very bespoke to the individual that I'm working with. So part of this is so one of the things around that, and to look at reactions of people as well, because we are so different, and the approaches and the way we react to energy and the initial point that we start with as well. One of the things that I do with people is normalize the reactions that might come out for them during a healing session, and saying things like, when you know, a normal thing could be the body could twitch, you may see colors, you may hear things, I may hear things and convey those messages to you as well. Are you open to receiving those things? There may be emotions that come up, nothing, and so normalize those things. One of the very first healings that I did, I had a woman, it's her first Reiki session that she'd had, and halfway through she had like quite an emotional meltdown as part of that. But one of the things she said that stopped her and helped her to kind of regulate that was the fact that right up front I'd said, you could experience some of these reactions or something different, and that's completely normal. And she said, having set that scene in the beginning, she knew it was normal, and therefore she didn't spin out. So it's kind of normalizing whatever the person is going through at the time, and just being prepared to deal with that as well. Another key thing, and channeling, and also with the mediumship work that I do as well, is making sure that the message is appropriate. When messages come through from people, especially kind of like with spirit during a healing session, and a lot of the sessions I do tend to be mixed. People might come for a healing session, but it might end up with some coaching. Somebody might come through for them from the other side. So it's always very mixed. Sometimes it's just a lovely energy session as well. So it can vary, like I say, from one time to another. One particular person, just as an example of that, and when you have to kind of, I guess, filter the messages that come through. Somebody had come to me and they'd had a friend pass through suicide. So that person came through and connected whilst we were in the client's healing session. And I also knew that they had some thoughts around suicide. So where I'm connected with her friend and I'm conveying messages, her friend was very, it's beautiful, I'm really happy, I couldn't do what I was doing on earth, you know, I wanted to go, everything's better for me now, all those kinds of things. If I had conveyed that exactly in that way to the person that had come for the session, there's a possibility that, having been in that scenario or looked at that scenario themselves to pass through suicide, I had to be careful to monitor and regulate that energetically wise, and in the words that I used, to basically tell her that a friend was okay, but not to necessarily make it all light and wonderful, because obviously I didn't really want her going there either. So, you know, and that's what I mean by being very careful about adapting the information and the style of the delivery in terms of what's being channeled and the message that's coming through, depending on what you know about the client. And sometimes you don't always know that. I guess I was fortunate in that case to know, but other times picking things up either as part of the conversation or energetically, and just being careful and adapting, and just I guess erring on the cautious side. I do always convey the message if a message comes through to them. Sometimes I might ask a question, like, have you ever thought about this? When the message might be, they need to do this. And I guess soften it, or choose to soften it in some ways, depending on the person, if I've worked with them before, how well I know them, but generally come in on a slightly softer approach around that. I guess the main thing in these sessions as well is not to make anything worse. And again, to leave people in a good place to carry on with what they need to do next. And all of that, or every aspect of that is healing as well. The other thing as well is just looking at the danger of intentions. And again, I'm still talking about keeping yourself and others safe. Intentions are good. I believe it's part of what I use to set up the I guess the energy for a session and intentions. But intentions can be used sometimes as a bit of a get out clause, and it's just being careful. You know, I didn't intend for that to happen. I think it's very different from setting an intention up front for, say, a person's highest healing, and then working with those energies that way. Is there any questions around that so far? Feel free to ask something. It's a bit weird when it's all quiet. I feel like I'm talking to myself a little. Okay. So yes, one thing I'd like to talk about is a healing space. I took the blur off my camera because I thought you might like to have a little look around. So this is mine. I'll see if I can get you in some kind of view of that. So this is new, or just within the last year or so. So this is a space that I have just outside my home for conducting sessions. However, it doesn't have to be like that. I actually believe that any space can be a healing space. It's what we make it as channelers and people who, you know, facilitate healing. I have also gone out and done sessions at the beach, out in nature. I kind of get a view of what that person is looking for, and if you know that they resonate with those things, and you know it's a lovely day, you can arrange to meet people out there, and also the ability to like pull in the elements as well, and invite aspects of nature into the work that you do. I think is really beautiful thing, and can also help in that healing space. So regardless of what space I'm in, I always make sure that I clear it and there's a variety of methods that I use for that as well. The reason I do that is energies build up over time. If you use a regular space like I've got here, then you obviously have the good kind of healing energies that build up within it, but also I make sure that I clear down those energies in between clients. And like even before I came on this Zoom to talk to you all tonight, then I cleared the space of anything that had kind of like gone before, even though I clear at the end of each session as well. And that doesn't matter whether the people are in person or if they're online. I always have like a little ritual that I use for clearing. There's a couple of things I use for that. I can use sound, and I can show you a couple of things. Might be a bit loud, sorry for any of you with headphones. So this is a brass bell, so that's like a very, very high vibration. So I use this for clearing because the vibration helps that, and I also use it in the sessions as well. Occasionally, it depends. Other things that might not be quite so loud are like the tuning forks. So I have a heart vibration tuning fork as well. And then I use a particular energy clearing spray before and after sessions. And that's just a really quick thing, you know, if you have quite short on time as well, and depending on the level of the energy and the session and how much needs to be cleared down. And sometimes a combination of the both. Again, I work very, very intuitively. So it's kind of like, I know I need this, or I know I need to use that, or maybe I need to use all three as well. So when I'm preparing for a session, so obviously I've just gone through like the clearing space and the types of things I do to clear that. So when I'm preparing, there's various aspects I go through. So there's hydrating myself and preparing myself energetically for the person coming in. I I'll have their name and normally their date of birth, and that helps me to connect with them and make sure I'm connecting, and that's kind of through the Akashic Records that I use as well. And then I kind of like stand in the middle of the space, or sometimes, you know, in the house, I've got crystals all over the place. And I'll kind of ask the question, what wants to work today? Or what wants to work with this person coming in today? And normally I get like, I call them like a little ping. And it's kind of like, oh, it's that crystal over there. Or I need to use the bell. Or I might end up using the pendulum. And sometimes it's nothing at the time. And it's like, nope, just start as you are. And other times there could be a number of crystals. And I have like one of the treatment tables that I normally put them underneath. Sometimes during the session, I put the crystals on the body or to the side of the body, or ask the client to hold them as well. And all of that's the information coming through and channeling. It'll be, okay, so it's that crystal, it needs to be placed here, or ask them to hold this, or this needs to go under the head. So again, very much with the channeling intuition part as well. Checking where I'm up to. Okay, so a couple of things about what I think a healing session is, and actually in a way I don't believe it's anything to do with me. That's very much, you know, it's all about the client. It's not about what I want from it, other than I always ask and set up my intention to be whatever's for the client's highest good, or whatever they need the most right now. I also normally ask them, you know, what would you like to get out of this session today? What are you hoping to achieve? And I ask them to say the words as well, to state what they would like out loud. I do believe like the more senses that we can pull into our healing and setting those kinds of things up front, the more powerful they are as well. And so that's like the setting up piece. So what a healing session might look like. This is something where people kind of say to me, what do you do? And I'm very much, well, what do you need? Because whilst I've learned lots and lots of different modalities, a lot of them come in at different pieces. And it's like, I know you do this or do this or do this. The first time that I realized, or consciously realized, that I was channeling and getting these messages, I had a room based in town, and I had the client was on the table, and they were in kind of like quite deep and relaxed state, and all of a sudden I got instructions to do basically some psychic surgery. And I remember the door of the room had one of those, you know, those little windows, or little thin windows that people could, little obscure, but people could see through. And I was doing that, and part of me was going, okay, I need to do this, and I need to do this like this, and open this, and then I'm scooping out what needed to be released from there, and I'm putting it over here. And another part of my brain's going, if anybody looks through that window right now, they're going to think I am a crazy person. And just kind of like half having a little giggle at myself about, oh my goodness, this is, I don't know what to do this, but somebody tell me to do something and it feels correct, because I think that's important as well, that it feels correct, not just randomly doing stuff. But okay, and just kind of like went with the flow of that. But yeah, I remember that, because I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is, but okay, let's go. We'll see how it happens. And it ends up being a really deep healing for that client. And I guess that's the point where we learn some more about trusting what's coming through as well, and getting those beautiful results for clients, and helping facilitate that for them. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I've got one. Do you do any particular preparation before channeling?
I make sure that I'm in a good space myself. You know, in that I'm well, I'm hydrated, I'm not thinking about 50,000 other things. I kind of like pull my energy in, I guess, because I think my energy's out there a lot and kind of like noticing things all the time. But for sessions in particular, it's almost like I pull my energy right into myself, and kind of consolidate it, ready to kind of settle all that down to work with the client. So that would be the key thing that I do. And then using, you know, with the name and the birth date, just it's almost like that gives me that like laser focus, if you like, ready for them to come in. But then it's like I don't invite it, it just kind of flows once they're there and they're ready in that kind of whatever type of session we're doing. Once they're kind of sat and relaxed and ready, then it will start flowing through. But there's nothing specific that I do to kind of like trigger that.
And do you know who you channel?
No.
No, I don't either.
I know, you know, sometimes I know, or that's, you know, an ancestor, or or I'll pick up on maybe the type of vibration, or who is sending messages, or, you know, guides and things like that. But whatever is actually saying to me, okay, this is the next thing to do. No. Sometimes,
Okay.
you know, I kind of make assumptions, like if I'm doing psychic surgery, there's probably some medical professional there, but I don't know a name or have a face or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. And I guess I've learned on that regard, because that might sound a bit bonkers to some people as well, that like, well, you just do things without questioning, but that has been like a big process as well, you know, from that first time going through and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm probably look a bit like a crazy person, anybody watching, and then going, okay, well, that actually worked really well, and the clients, you know, had a really good experience and is feeling well. Each time from that, just like building on that, and I guess asking less questions. And now I'm like, okay, so we're doing this today. All right, all good. I was working with somebody a few weeks ago who was having some issues really sometime post concussion. And I was sat at their head doing some work around the head, and it was like, take the top of the skull off, open up, and it's like the brain, almost like I had half of it in each hand. And I'm like, all right, this is new, even for some of the stuff I've done, but okay, I'm energetically holding somebody's brain. Cool. Yeah. And just, I guess over time, I've kind of relaxed into that, but it's still, it's really buzzy. I find it really buzzy. I'm like, oh my gosh, and do this with this part of the brain, and then do something completely different, then put together, and obviously, you know, doing that kind of work. I don't know. It's just amazing. It's a hugely privileged space to work in, really, really is, and so diverse as well. Yeah, so very, very diverse. What else am I thinking of doing there? Okay, I touched a little bit on the tools. What I normally do in a healing, one of the first things I'll do after kind of like I get myself ready, I will speak to the client, they will settle themselves in a position that is comfortable for them. Sometimes they're more comfortable in a chair, sometimes they're more comfortable on the table. Yeah, and settle them into that place. And then the way it works, it's almost like our energies merge. And that's how I'm reading and channeling and picking up on how they're working. And that's also how I monitor how they're responding as well. I always say sessions are up to an hour, and I'm very specific about that, because people can have enough. And I can tell when they've had enough. There's some physical signs. They might start getting a little twitchy, as well, little twitchy. If there's been a lot of energy released from the body, it's not about, for me, sticking to, oh, you know, a session is, you know, an hour or whatever. A session could be 15 minutes and can be as powerful as some other sessions that are an hour and a half. I don't know, it's not like a constant energy for me. Again, it's different for everybody. Sometimes it's very, very fast. This is the thing that needs to do, that's out, and it could be just like really big. And other times it's much more gentle. And I generally check in with the person I'm working with about that as well. Some people are kind of like, I've been putting up this for years. I'm at the end of my tether. I don't know what to do with myself any longer, or all those kinds of things. And they're just like, just get this out of me. And that might be quite a short, sharp, actual, for want of a better term, hands-on. It's not all hands-on that I do, but I guess the active part of the session might be quite short, but then it's about making sure post that they are okay. One thing that I did learn very, very early on, and I learned it the hard way, is to, and sometimes those are our biggest lessons, is a friend of mine was at end stage cancer. And, you know, she hadn't been given very, very long before she was due to pass. And I went to the hospital and asked her, you know, would she like, and it was actually Reiki I was doing at that time, some Reiki on her, and we kind of like went in and did some really good stuff. She felt so much better, and pretty much from lying looking quite grey, wouldn't, you know, got up and went to see people in the waiting room and pretty much bounced out. Everyone was like, oh my goodness, you look great. And my friend turned around to me and said, I don't know what you did, but she looks great and you look really, really sick. And what I realized that I'd done is where I'd merged those energies together in the healing, and that's quite a natural thing. It's not even really like a conscious thing. It's just like right in there. I hadn't disconnected. So that I learned very, very quickly. So it's like a huge drain from my energy. So instead of like properly flowing through, that meant that I was really, really depleted and almost like took on her stuff instead of releasing it, taking it and helping her release it. So now I have this little ritual, and I'm very, very, very strict with myself about this. And I can tell pretty much instantly if I've forgotten to do it for whatever reason. So at the end, I'll go to the head of the person and I will say, let everything that is good of, and use their name, return to them now. Let everything that no longer serves them be taken and transmuted into healing energy for the use of the good of all. And then I would say the same for myself, that everything that is good of me now, that is of mine that is good, return to me now. Let everything of mine that no longer serves me be released and taken and transmuted. And some, and you know, and transmuted, I normally say by the angels, but obviously you can, whatever or whoever you work with, you might do something like that. Or, you know, and that way I always make sure that we disconnect our energies from each other. And that also acts like a bit of a useful to discharge those energies too. I guess that's quite an important thing too. It's like knowing that if you have taken something on inadvertently, and sometimes we can do all of these things to look after ourselves and we still do it, that we have our ways and we have our tools to be able to release those as well. And that's also important, and you kind of find your own way in these. But some of the things that I do is, you know, feet on the ground, actually feet properly on the earth, scrunching your toes in the grass, or go outside in the rain, maybe not so much in winter, it's way better in summer. Water is a big one for me, like flowing water. But if you can't get to flowing water, you know, if you're not close, or, you know, it's the middle of winter and it's freezing cold and you really don't want to, worst case scenario, a shower is good, but just like flowing water, has to be moving water to clear all of those things down. Or again, I've used the bell before, and I'll tap the bell and I'll do like this around myself a couple of times and kind of round here. So all the way down, and use the vibration. And again, I'll use the sprays as well. But definitely by far, personally, is the water and the nature one. And food always helps. I have a really sweet tooth and I'm terrible for chocolate, but I think it's a really good excuse to ground yourself. I've been busy helping people. I deserve chocolate. You can talk yourself into anything. Cool. So a couple of things that you might feel from a person as well. I've noticed everybody obviously feels different because everybody is different. Everybody takes things on differently for those kinds of reasons. But some things I have noticed that I found quite obvious is it can be difficult to get through. It's almost like somebody felt like there's an extra layer on people. And sometimes when people take medications, especially some of the kind of like depression type medications, to me, it feels like I'm having like my hands, I'm almost like trying to get through treacle. There's nothing wrong with those. I have nothing against medication, just to be clear, but it's just an observation that sometimes you can feel that you're not getting anywhere for a little while. And then just being persevering, basically, because it's just a layer, like an extra layer that you might need to work through a little bit to get to the person's energy to actually be working and helping that energy flow as well. And like I say, I don't think it's I don't have an opinion on medication either way, but it's good to know that if it feels markedly different from a different person, then it could be. And sometimes I ask the question. I kind of say, but in a, you know, in a kind way, I kind of say, oh, have you taken any medication recently? Because I can feel it in your energy field, type thing, and then that can help understand something about what's going on. I think one of the other things I don't need to know everything about somebody to help facilitate their healing. So it's not like a counseling session, or it can be different from a counseling session. Sometimes people don't want to talk about their experiences because it can re-traumatize, or it might be very new, or for 101 different reasons, people might not want to talk about the thing that they want to clear. And it's not something that I need to know. If they want to share, and some people do, obviously that's confidential, but I don't need them to share to be able to help them to clear it. And I think that's quite important as well, because that also means it could have the ability to facilitate the healing of people that may not go to other people because they don't want to talk about things, but they still want some help to be able to move through them as well. So, are there any more questions at this point?
I've got one. Just and it does go along with what you were just saying. I guess a lot of people can feel it's really confronting to be one-on-one with someone, and especially if they're not used to any of the spiritual healing or modalities, that there's that another barrier that can be put up is the fear of, you can read my mind, or you can see the things in me that they don't even want to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Do you have ways of sort of easing people through that? Have you come across anything like that?
Yeah, so to ease them through the experience, because so they don't want to confront what they're actually kind of like holding. Okay, yeah, so generally what I would say around that is I would say in particular for an energy session, that as we go through life, we pick up a whole bunch of things. You know, we have a whole bunch of experiences, we meet a whole bunch of people, things happen to us, good things, not so good things, all those kind, or you know, a whole world of things. And as we go through, it's almost like we get layers of things. You know, there's a little layer and a little layer and a little layer. It's almost like, you know, when you haven't done your dusting for a while and you turn around and you go, oh. And I kind of refer it to that, so I keep it quite light. I might be able to feel that it's really quite dense and gnarly, but I'm keeping it quite light because I'm referring to, you know, when you haven't dusted for a bit and then all of a sudden you go, oh, let's have a big spring clean. I said, this is kind of the energy equivalent of that. So what we're doing is we're spring cleaning, all those things you kind of like pick up as you go through life. This is like hitting the reset button on those. And kind of keep it very non-specific, like you say, because then it can be less threatening. And then I kind of say, pretty much guarantee the worst that will happen is that you'll have a really relaxing session. You might fall asleep, and if you snore, I won't tell anybody, you know. So it's kind of like have a little bit of humor about it, kind of just keep it light and not be, oh, I can feel this really big thing around here, which might be very confronting, and you might even know exactly what it is, but like you say, to actually say it would potentially cause them to close up and not be kind of like open to the healing and the releasing of it, even if they really wanted to. You know, just having that natural instinct of somebody knows, oh my God, and then you automatically, energy just goes, right? So that's the way I've dealt with it in the past. And sometimes, and I've done that before with one particular person, and they then opened up and said that they'd actually been assaulted, and it was like a lot of years before, and that, you know, that they thought they dealt with that, but clearly they hadn't. There was some stuff started like coming up, and that was one of those people that was just like, I thought I dealt with this has come up now, just get it out of me right now. You know, I am done. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to come back again. I don't want to do it in 2 sessions, because something like that is really, really big, obviously, and can be very, very emotional when you're releasing it. Don't want to do it across multiple sessions. I just want you to get out of me now. Can you do that? And I was like, well, let's see how we can go. Because I guess that's the key thing as well, just being, because again, you might get to a certain point and go, that's enough, or feel that's enough. If I take this any further, I don't feel like I'm going to leave the person in a safe emotional state to be able to get home, or something like that. But they were actually fine and were so determined, you know, going from that keeping it quite light, don't want to confront, don't want to hone in on this, to fully going, this happened, this is when that happened, this is what happened, and I'm just done, get it out of me, done in 1 session, because of their determination that this was their healing and this was going to be the final time that they did this. So it can really turn around if you just start light. Some people don't. Some people will actually say, and I'm always very clear, you can talk if you want to, but you don't have to. It won't impact what we do here today. So don't feel like you have to, otherwise you won't have, you know, to have a good session. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
May I, Lorraine? Do you ever find that you work with clients' past lives, so that something's coming through energetically? And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, very much so. I will ask them if they believe in that. And sometimes I'll use slightly different language if they kind of look a bit like, oh God, what have I got myself into? I'll kind of go, you know, sometimes we can bring things from, you know, from again, just kind of slightly divert rather than go you or whatever in a past life and then kind of go, "Ugh," and like you just see them when the door closes. I'll go something like, you know, some people believe in past lives, and we can and that kind of language rather than going, you were this in the past life. Like, some people believe in this, and it's entirely possible that this happened. And I've had some people that have been a little skeptical, but using that approach has never had somebody, you know, make a fast stage left exit. And they'd send a kind of list, and you talk a bit more, and then I will talk them through. I'll say, so I'm seeing this, you, this person, this place. Can you close your eyes for me and tell me, when I say these words to you, how does that feel? And then I was kind of talking them through, does this feel right? Does this resonate for you? And it's always been a yes. And then I will talk them through going back and talking to that past life aspect of themselves, and doing whatever needs to be doing in that life, and then bring that forward again. And then once you've done it once, they're like on a roll. They're like, oh, are there any more? Sometimes, you know, what's the next one that needs doing? And I've also got this thing. Could that be a past life thing as well? And, you know, people, once they've kind of got over that initial, yeah, I guess skepticism is the word. They just seem to be, all right, this is another thing, and I've done that, and you taught me through that, and you helped me do that, and that feels better. I can feel, might not know exactly what it is, and I still might not really 100% believe in it, but what I do know is that I feel different having just done the thing that you taught me through doing. So they can do it like right here, right now, I feel better. Yeah. So that's how, yeah, I work with that piece. Any more questions? Oh, there's I haven't covered when not to give healing.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so not everybody who comes to us is meant for us, I don't believe. And there's no kind of like shame in kind of going, or, you know, I kind of like have a bit of a conversation, get a feel for a person. And there have been multiple times when I've gone, I could help you. However, actually, I think it's better for you to go to this person. From what you're telling me, I know I believe that you will relate better to this person. Or I know that what they do would help you faster and to a greater degree to then me doing something for you. So there's that aspect when I think it's not necessarily a mismatch, but somebody else could do better for that person. So I'll suggest that. Sometimes I'm like, this is not the right time. Actually, to be open to this, I guess, if somebody is interviewing me and giving me a hard time about, well, why should I believe that you do this? And why should I believe about this? I'm kind of like, don't. Clearly, we are not on a wavelength to work. We're not on a, I guess, a healing relationship for me to be able to assist you. So you are probably better to go and find somebody who you resonate with better. And then the other thing is I would be very, very careful in terms of culture and Indigenous peoples as well. And only because it can be very different depending on where you're working, the way that you're working, and connecting back to roots is very important, I believe. So I've always tried to help connect. So I don't refuse. If I still believe I can help, I will still help, but I'll also try and connect people back to other people as well as part of that. And I see that as a continued piece of healing as well. And I will often ask, have you, you know, have you spoken to certain people? Have you connected, you know, in terms of culturally and things like that in those cases, just to it's just a, I guess, a belief of mine that in particular, sometimes the cultures and for Indigenous people, it's very different because there's a lot of additional trauma there, and we don't want to make it worse by thinking we know better, or we know something, or implementing helping with a system of healing that doesn't necessarily resonate appropriately. All right, did that answer your question?
Oh, I was curious, Lorraine, if there are any boundaries you have around yourself. You're talking about the other person where you're getting a sense this is not least for them. But are there any times when you would choose, no, I'm not going to do this work?
Yeah, sometimes it's only happened a couple of times. I've gone, no, there's a different kind of agenda here, and I'm not going to buy into that. I had somebody go, okay, well, I'm going to come to you and I expect this, and this. No, that's not the way it works. I'm not going to put myself in that position. And, you know, there are times, once or twice, where I've not got a good feeling from the person, and like, I don't actually want to be in a space by myself with you. And therefore I'm not going to go there. And in those circumstances, again, I've just said, actually, I don't think we're meant to work together, and there'll be somebody else that will work better with you. Yeah, so I have said no on some occasions. And also recently I've had somebody ask me for readings and I've refused as well. So there's a couple of things around that. Giving people constant and regular readings, I won't do that unless something fundamental has happened in their life. People need to be able, my belief is people need to be able to carry on their life without the use, you know, without me essentially giving that regular insight, if you like. They need to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. So I won't do that. I won't schedule in unless we're working on a very specific thing. I won't book in, or, you know, oh, I want to do, you know, 6 healings. People have said to me, how, you know, how many healings should I book in for? And I'm like, well, how do you feel? Let's do 1. And then you tell me when you're going to come back. It's not really up to me to tell you. It's about how you feel. So and if people, you know, are continually doing things, I'll be like, I don't think that's correct either. But yeah, it's more if I guess the vibe doesn't match, it's a hard boundary of no for me. I'm not going to put myself in that space where I don't feel right to work with that person, because ultimately, like I said, I merge energies with people. It's actually quite an intimate thing to merge energies with people, and I don't think, and albeit from a healing perspective, I don't think you take that lightly. I don't take that lightly, put it that way.
Lorraine, do you provide psychoeducation to go along with your healing modalities so that they've got resources to use when, you know, between sessions, if you like, or in the future?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer. I would rather see 1,000 people once than one person 1,000 times. So if I can convey something, there's a course on this, there's a book here, there's a blog here, I've done this before. I would rather do a form, and that's part of what I do, little training things as well. I would rather help people to learn how to do this themselves, like I said, than repeatedly come back and see me all the time. So everything, it's always almost like a teaching aspect to the sessions I do as well. So yes, is the answer to that. And I pick things up as I go along, because I'm always learning as well, right? Because we learn from the people that we work with as much as we go and learn through books and stuff like that. The greatest teachers are the people we have the privilege to help as well, right? I think.
I have a question about ancestral. How does that compare to, say, past life experiences, and how are you able to tell the difference? That's something I've struggled with just recently.
So for me, ancestral is patterns. So for example, I'm quite happy to talk about my family. So in the male line, all of the males have died early, like 32, 36, 42, like all my dad's line. To me, that's an ancestral pattern, right? They all die early. They all die of obscure things that other people, you know, or it could be, doesn't have to be like quite that extreme. It could be you get a fear of swimming, might be another thing. So the difference would be, you know, everybody's always in the pattern would be the everybody's afraid of water, right? Would be maybe the ancestral line, whereas the past life we might be, and this is a personal experience as well, loved water. Grew up spending half my teenage life upside down underwater. I was a synchronized swimmer. Hit 25, scared of water. Go figure. Right? So to me, that is a past life, because nothing at all made me scared of water. Nothing happened to me in this life. All of a sudden, did not want to be in sea. Water freaked me out. So to me, that's past life. I'd clearly hit at the age where something had happened at the same age in the past life, and all of a sudden this was there. There's no reason for it in this life. So to me, that's past. And like I said, and then those continued patterns, maybe with illness or breakups continually, you know, in certain lines, ancestral. That's the way I would look at them and see, is there a pattern here, or is there any reason whatsoever why this should have happened now? And that's how I would differentiate between the two. Does that help? Cool. There's one other thing I haven't talked about is results. In terms of, and the other is learning to listen to your body as part of the healing sessions as well. So when, and I guess this is part for me in learning to trust as well with the channeling. And I was saying right at the beginning, you know, saying, does this feel right to me? So getting a message and going, okay, so you need to do this, but still asking the question, does this feel right? And training and feeling in my body, does this feel right? So for me, it's more like through experience. You know, you do something and then, you know, you get a good result. But then a way that I've sometimes trained people in that is by asking questions. So for example, if I said to Tracy, is your name Tracy? Right? And so we know the answer is yes. How does that feel in my body? How does my body feel? Where is that feeling? Where do I feel it? And what does it feel like? And then if I said to Rob, right, is your name Tracy? And then I should get a different feeling, right? Because it's not true. So I kind of trained myself that way. And that's the way I've helped people to kind of like get the feelings in their body. Okay, so this feels like a true thing. This doesn't feel right. And then kind of like when the messages come through, just like asking the question, does this feel right? Does this feel right? Whilst learning to trust and kind of build up that kind of, I guess, knowledge and experience. And yeah, it's pretty much the trust, I guess. Does that make sense? But yeah, it's just one way that you can do that. And then the other thing, I guess, is results. I mean, we can get some amazing work, some amazing results doing this work. And channeling has definitely been the way. I mean, the other thing is like the quantum energy, and where you can visualize something the way it should be. So I've used that before, where somebody came in and they had a sore back, and it was kind of like, you know, when people are a little unsteady because of the sore back and stuff, and then just visualizing what a healthy spine looks like. This is like one quite, I guess, big example. And we did that, and then she got up and walked out fine. And that was really cool. And I was kind of saying, can you let me know how long that lasts? You know, you hope it'd be forever, but you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 years would be great. Be great to know. And I guess that's one thing, we don't always get that feedback depending on how often we see people. If we only ever see them once, then we may never know, right? Because people don't always call you when it's fixed. They kind of call you and they go, oh, I kind of helped, but I needed something else. But they don't always tell you when it's fixed. But you know, you can work on the assumption that no news is good news in that case, I think. But no, lots of really cool results. Working on some past life stuff as well, and talking people through that process that I was talking about earlier of going back into their past lives and greeting themselves and forgiving themselves for things that happen, that come through to this life. And I guess a highlight for me is when all of a sudden somebody gets it, or they realize where something has come from. So where I'm feeling like this today, and it's actually come from here. Or, you know, it doesn't have to be a past lifetime, it could be this lifetime. And I call it shining the light from a different angle, and going, okay, so you've always looked at it, the torch has always been shining this way, so you've only ever seen it in this light. So what happens if we turn the torch this way just for a minute? What does that look like? And sometimes it's instant and it's a really beautiful thing. And it's like something just goes click and the light changes in their eyes and they get it. And I've had that for a few times. And I think that's just really amazing because they've got it. You might have helped by saying something, or like I said, just shining the light in a slightly different way, but they've got it. They've realized it's different. One person had thought about a particular scenario and had not been very happy with themselves for it for over 30 years. And it was almost like messages coming through. Well, do you realize you based the decision based on this, this, and this, and none of those things were in your control? So now that you know that, or realize that, and this is where you're shifting the torch and shifting the direction of the light, does it still look the same to you? And then the answer was no. And it was just a beautiful thing. Yeah, that is awesome. That's like the best healing session. So when it's that moment of clarity, is just amazing. So yeah, lots of physical results, lots of emotional and releasing results. yeah, and it's just a really amazing place to be. Does anybody have any questions?
Did you resolve the water issue for yourself, Lorraine? Have you gone back to being a water baby?
Which one, sorry?
You're saying that you have a fear of water when you're age 25. Do you resolve that issue, that past life?
Rob,
Yes.
farmers have the leakiest taps.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
I still am not, I am getting back in the pool and stuff recently. I know where it's come from. And I think it's actually through a few past lives. I've cleared the most immediate one. I'm still a little bit iffy about getting back in the ocean, so I'm getting there, but no, I haven't cleared it completely for myself,
Right.
to be honest.
Thank
Maybe you can help me with that.
Maybe.
Rob's my go-to person, by the way. He's the person I go and I go, stuff's stuck and I don't know what to do, and can you see me, and I need to do it now. And he always makes the time, and is always amazing.
You know what I say, do you? I step aside. I have nothing to do with it. Thank you very much.
So can I ask, I get a few people coming for readings saying, I think I'm a healer. What do I do? What's my first step? What would you say?
Actually, I'm just setting up some circles for healers for exactly that. So so what I because I hear this quite a lot. You know, somebody says either they believe that, or somebody said to them, oh, you've got healing abilities, or something like that, but like you just said, Kim, they don't know what to do. And normally it's good to do this in a group. I think you can do it one-on-one, but when you do it in a group with people, then they can give each other feedback. So almost the best way is, or what I've done previously is go, okay, let's have a small group. Let's have one person on the table, if you like, and then the others all work together, because you can, and then also feed back on that and go, what did you feel? What did you feel? What did you feel? What did you feel? And also the person experiencing it. And then, you know, and because if the person experiencing it has also worked with energy or in that same position of everybody else, then I think you perceive it quite differently from somebody who perhaps isn't working or energetically aware. And so you can give a different level of feedback. So you can kind of say, because if you've got and I kind of do it blind as well, so you have the person on the table so they don't see who's around them or where. The people like stand around where they intuitively feel they're supposed to be and just let them do that. And then the person on the table can kind of go, I felt this at my feet. So the person who is at their feet gets validation that they're doing something and something's working because somebody's feeling it. And start that way to like get a little bit of confidence. And also, I think it's important to say it's not wrong. I think when people first start out, they're afraid of getting it wrong. And I've always said, well, as long as you have, you know, you're setting what you're trying to get out of it. It's like, it's not about you as such. You're trying to get, you know, you want the highest good for the person that you're working with, or whatever needs to happen, and you want to facilitate that. You can't do harm. And as long as you know how to help somebody, or where to go for help when it all goes wrong, or if it all goes wrong, you know, you can't harm. I don't believe you can harm in that circumstance. If you want to intentionally harm, then yes, of course you can harm. But if you're working in that way, and that's the way I get people to get like gain confidence and like play with energy in a safe and supported environment. so they can feel what it's like to give and receive and work with it in different ways, and then they can figure out what they can actually do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But always respecting it. And so I think that's the key thing. Respect the energy, you know, use it for good. For all the things we could do in the world, let's do, if we are able to do this, let's do good things with it, because we have the ability, I think, to do either. You can harm, or you can help with healing. Yeah. Does that help?
Thank you. Yes.
Lorraine, thank you. I just want to acknowledge the integrity that you hold doing the work you do. It's just been very, very obvious through everything that you've shared that you know, that's something that's important to you. And yeah, I really love that about the way you work, and thank you for everything you've shared, because I haven't had the privilege of many people who work in healing share so freely how they do things. You know, some people kind of keep things a little bit to themselves and don't want to share, but I just really appreciate your openness. It's really cool. I'm just interested to know, I don't really understand the way in which Rob supports you, whether that's, you know, helping, you know, in a healing capacity, you know, he heals you as a healer, or, and my question is, do you feel it's important to have someone who is doing the type of work that you're doing, that you can decompress with in safety? Because I think I kind of get the sense that we can clear ourselves and detach and everything after working with someone, but there'll be occasions where, you know, let's say we might be dealing with a situation where there's someone with cancer involved, and then we may have had an experience ourselves with someone that we love, and being able to actually just release that somehow, you know, because clearing and things like that in the ways that you've described doesn't actually resolve everything that you need to let go of. Does that make sense? So I'm just wondering if you have a mentor or you have a buddy that you can offload to in safety, and if you feel that's an important part of doing what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely, definitely. So Robert is an incredible healer. So to and I know he'll blush, and you're not allowed to shake your head. No. He is a very, very humble and beautiful, incredible healer. So when I do things like you know, sometimes stuff gets stuck, or sometimes I'm just not in a great space. And that's the other thing. I won't work with other people if I'm not in a great space. It's my responsibility to make sure I'm okay, so I can work with other people, you know. And so if I get myself in that space, and it doesn't, you know, happen very often, it's always great to have a go-to person and to clear that and basically have an energy session myself. There's very, very few people that I will go to, but Rob is one of those. On the other aspect of it, when I've needed other help to decompress and other things, sometimes I would just want some direction, you know, I need readings and stuff. And actually I've been to Mandy's done readings for me in the past, not for a while, but Mandy has, and she's one of my Akashic Records sisters. We did training together, level 3 training together, which is awesome. And then yes, I have call them my witch sisters. And we all, you know, with our spidey senses and various things like that. And yeah, it's nice to have those people, or to find our people, find our tribe, where we can just be authentically however we are, and nothing we say causes a reaction other than, oh yeah, you know, and it could be the wildest out there thing, you know, and people are just like, oh yeah, me too. So I think it is really important to have those people in your life where you can just talk about that. And it doesn't even have to be the spidey senses stuff, like you say. It could be, yes, you've helped somebody through cancer and that's been very personal to you because you've lost several people. I've lost several people for cancer, and like young friends, as well as older people. And I think it makes me I'm able to better facilitate by gaining that understanding. And for me, the emotions there are fine because that's part of my healing and the loss for them. But it is also very good to be able to freely express those with a person or people. So that's a really long way of saying yes, definitely.
And on that note, how, from the time you started to now, how have you developed and grown? Has it changed your life because of the work you're doing?
Definitely. Just in so many, yeah, I guess so many ways. In some ways you realize what you've always done, because there's so many ways to facilitate healing. And I think sometimes when you grow and you get to a point, you kind of look back on some other things and you appreciate that they were also healing opportunities. As we go through life every day, I mean, sometimes it can be a bit cliche, but you know, they say you can smile at somebody in the street and that could be really healing for that person. They could be having a really terrible time and just that smile is really healing for them. So I don't think we often realize the impact. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be in a session. I think for me, that's been a big period of growth. You know, realizing those things. It doesn't have to look like this. It doesn't have to be in a traditional way. It could be 1,000,001 different things. It could be saying to that person, hey, amazing earrings, great hair color, whatever, right? It doesn't have to be, yeah, and adapting things as well. So for me, I went through a big period of growth of I learned this and I learned this and I learned this and I learned this and I learned this. And then when I then kind of made those things my own, it's almost I went, right, now, how do I put me into that? So yeah, me developing as a person meant I don't do things like this. I do things like this. I grab the things the person needs. I don't, and there's nothing, I don't think there's anything wrong with any of the ways. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing things in a set way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of doing more of a, I'll do some of that and some of that and some of that, because that's what's coming through that person needs. And I guess realizing those things have been like a big period of growth as well. Always learning every single time.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Lorraine. It's been really interesting, and it's great to actually sit with another healer and know that other people, like all of these gorgeous people here today, are actually shining their light on this world and making a huge difference. And to hear your process, your model, has been really valuable to me. Thank you.
No worries at all. And I know Kim's gonna, I think, share my contact details with the group. So if you've got any questions, that's all cool. Just message me or whatever. I'm good. You know, I just think the more I share, you know, if it helps, awesome. There's a lot to do in this world for all of us. I'm like, yes, if we can all help each other do that and help a whole bunch of other people and help other people help themselves, then I don't see any bad things about that. Yeah.
On that note, would you like to just explain your business and what services that you offer?
Oh, gosh, yes. So I do obviously wellness facilitation. So that would be people might come for coaching. I'm a life coach as well. They might come for a healing session, or energy session is more the way I describe it. They might come for a reading. So I do all of those things. I also do training. I really love doing the training courses, and that would actually be one is similar to like this evening, but in more of a, I guess, a training environment, in like talking to people about these things. The other one, as I mentioned earlier, is like running a circle. So run circles in terms of a group of people who would be very new at the energy and wellness, but also quarterly ones for existing people who work in this, that have been doing this work for a while. Sometimes you need a bit of a recharge, and that's going back to what Deborah was saying, you know, people who've been working with healing for a while, helping each other in that, like in a safe space, because we've all done it before, you know, and we know what we're getting at and know that that's a safe space and who we all are type thing. So yeah, training, that's a definite passion for me, and I'll be doing more courses, running more courses along that. I've got a website, so I'll pop them up there. And the other thing, the really, really new thing that I've just started doing, I'll just show you these quickly while you've got a few minutes. And my latest beautiful challenging channeling thing there's an energy spray that I was talking about earlier. So that's what I've created here, and I've got an enhanced communication one. So this works day to day and this way. And then the other one is a self-love one. So they're the ones I've done so far, all kind of like channeled and done intuitively. And there'll be 3 more coming as well. Next one's joy, apparently, so I'm told. So yeah, so like diversifying in those kinds of different areas. A whole bunch of information on my website, and like I said, I'll be putting up some opportunities to learn these things, and some of the things that we've been talking about this evening as well. Yeah. And then often as I go through things and people go, do you know about that? Can you tell us about that? Then I'll just create more little workshops and things like that, just to get the information out there to more people. Yes.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No
This has
worries.
been a wonderful, wonderful session. And for those of you who might have missed the beginning, Lorraine was meant to co-host with Sheena, but Sheena has unexpectedly not been able to come. So Lorraine stepped up and run the whole session. And it's been so wonderful. I've learned so much. I have been to Lorraine for a healing many moons ago when you were in the city. I remember trying to find where you were down this rabbit warren of, but it was such a lovely, lovely experience. I remember floating out afterwards. It was absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much for stepping up and doing the whole session. I've learned so much. I don't call myself a healer. People tell me I'm a healer, but I don't call myself a healer. But despite that, I've learned so many things that are really helpful for me in the work that I do. And I know from the questions that a lot of people have been learning so much as well. It's one of these talks that you can watch several times and get something different out of it. I will be putting this recording up on the Facebook page. And if any of you are not part of the Facebook group, it's called Channeling Development and Spiritual Growth. And we do a whole range of things on there, one of which is the free monthly webinars. And so just before we finish, let me just explain what's coming up. Next month, the next 2 months is actually Anya, who co-runs the group with me. And next month, she's talking about tools to support channeling. What can we use to help our channeling? A bit like what Lorraine said, and going a bit further. In June, she's talking about making an income from spiritual gifts that you have while still standing in your integrity. July, we are having Delphine, who's here tonight, on past life regression. Delphine, I know I'm putting you completely on the spot. Is there anything you can say just off the top of your head with regard to that session? You have to unmute yourself. Can you unmute, Delphine? Oh, there we go. Yeah,
there we go. It was really enjoyable. Thank you, Lorraine. I've really enjoyed the session. And actually, those people who asked questions, thank you to them too, because I've really enjoyed listening to not only the questions, but the responses. It's always such a rounded form of knowledge doing it this way, isn't it? I've been, I started doing past life therapy as a therapeutic tool in, I think, 1975. There were no books except for 2 or 3, I think. But I started with a friend of mine who had an issue that she just could not resolve. And I was busy studying at the time. And I said, how about we try this? That was a sort of cognitive therapy kind of thing. And that didn't work. And then we tried Jungian stuff and that didn't work. And I said, look, how about we give this a go? I've just found out about it and it's, you know, give it a go. You never know. And she said, let's do it. And we did. And for her, it worked. And the issue was resolved and dissolved to her great delight. And she was so pleased with it that she told other people about it. And that's how it all began, and way back in the 70s. By the time I got to the 90s, I was really doing fairly tough jobs then, and being promoted around the country. So it was very difficult to keep going, and I decided to drop it completely. And it was only, and I, after that, started to do, I think in the 2010 after, I think, just for friends. And until I went to a session, I think in 2012, I'm not sure, when it came up again. And I just sort of do it by word of mouth. I've never advertised. I've never marketed. And finally wound up doing the research and the reading just as I was deciding to stop doing it, which was interesting. And I was really struck by Lorraine's remarks. I'd endorse every single thing she said in terms of the how and the why, and you, the person, what you're doing. And I tell all my clients as they come, just regard me as a tour guide. I've been there many times. I know what you need for a passport. I know what you need to get through this barrier. I know what you are likely to want, and I know lots of different ways you can get there or come back from there or whatever. And I think that reassures them that I'll be here, and I'll touch your hand if you want me to, or if you need a hand to hold while we're doing this. But really, regarding me as a tour guide is probably the best way to see me. I don't want you to think I'm a guru or anything else like that. I'm someone who will enable you to find what you're looking for in your mind and in your past. And I will simply then enable you to come to grips with how you are going to resolve that issue. And it's going to be done in your style, in your time, in your way, because that's who you are. And you as an individual is really important to me, to make sure that that is what we are underlining our relationship with. So yeah, it's a bit sort of a long sort of a long introduction. I better go now.
Thank you, Delphine. So this is what's awaiting us in July. I'll put the date up as we're going forward, but certainly, I mean, as with Lorraine, we have some wonderful speakers and some wonderful topics. And just like to thank you again, Lorraine, for that amazing, amazing session. It was so good.